In a village by the tall baobab tree, an elder's voice and whisper sets us free. Jubo smiles on screens, a tale they weave. Ancient echoes in
In a
stories.
bustling village where the sun always seemed to smile down on the people, there was a hair salon unlike any other. The salon was modest, tucked away in a narrow alley, yet it was the most sought after place for miles. It wasn't the decor or the location that drew the villagers, it was the owner, Adama, the fastest braider in all the land. But her speed wasn't what kept people talking. It was the absence of mirrors in her salon. Adama was a striking woman, tall and elegant, with eyes that seemed to hold secrets older than the village itself. Her fingers moved with such speed and precision that a woman could walk in with unruly hair and leave with a crown of intricate braids in the time it took to sip a cup of tea. But there was one rule Adama strictly enforced: no mirrors. She didn't even allow the women to bring their own. The villagers whispered about the rule, some saying it was a quirk, others insisting it was a curse. They weren't entirely wrong. Adama's life had been shaped by a dark secret that began before she was even born. Many years ago, Adama's mother, Oluchi, had struggled for years to conceive. Desperate, she turned to an old spirit that dwelled deep in the forest, a spirit known for granting the desires of women in exchange for a heavy price. Oluchi begged the spirit for a child, and the spirit granted her wish, but with one condition. The child would be born with extraordinary abilities, yet she would be forever bound to the spirit's will. The spirit decreed that mirrors would show the true nature of the curse, and so Adama would never be allowed to see her reflection nor let others see her walk in one. As Adama grew, so did her talents. She was a natural with hair, her fingers moving like magic. The women loved her work, but Adama hated the curse that came with it. She had never seen her own reflection, and though she could feel the admiration from others, she longed to be free, to be able to marry, to love, to live without the shadow of the spirit over her. The spirit's hold on her was strong. It whispered in her ear as she braided, guiding her hands and quickening her pace. It watched her, ensuring she obeyed the rules. Adama's heart grew heavier with each passing year. She yearned for freedom, but the spirit's power seemed insurmountable. And now, after years of submission, Adama was tired. One day, a handsome traveler named Kelechi entered the village. He was known for his bravery and his knack for solving mysteries. The villagers, always eager for news, told him about the mirrorless salon and the beautiful hairdresser who seemed to be hiding something. Intrigued, Kelechi decided to visit Adama's salon. When he walked in, Adama felt something she hadn't felt in years, a glimmer of hope. Kelechi's presence seemed to fill the room with warmth, and for a moment, the whispers of the spirit fell silent. But the spirit quickly tightened its grip, warning Adama not to speak of the cause. Kelechi, sensing something was amiss, gently questioned Adama as she walked. "Why no mirrors?" he asked, his tone light but curious. Adama hesitated, her heart pounding. She wanted to tell him everything, to beg for his help, but the spirit's warning rang in her ears. She forced a smile and said, "It's just a preference. I like my clients to focus on the process, not the results." But Kelechi wasn't convinced. He could see the strain in Adama's eyes, the way her hands trembled ever so slightly as she walked. He decided he would uncover the truth no matter the cost. As he left the salon, he glanced back at Adama and she caught his eye. In that brief moment, a silent plea passed between them. Kelechi knew that freeing her from whatever bound her would be not an easy task, but he was determined to try. And so the tale of Adama, the cursed hairdresser, and Kelechi, the brave traveler, began to unravel in the village. What secrets would Kelechi uncover? Could he break the curse that had haunted Adama since birth? And what would happen if the spirit discovered their plan? The answers to these questions lay hidden in the shadows, waiting to be revealed. Kelechi was a man of action. After leaving the salon, he didn't rest. He went to the oldest woman in the village, Nneka, who was known for her knowledge of ancient tales and dark secrets. When Kelechi mentioned Adama and the absence of mirrors, Nneka's face grew serious. "The spirit of the forest," she whispered, her voice trembling. "That spirit is ancient and powerful. If it has bound Adama, the only way to free her is to break the curse at its source." Nneka told Kelechi that the spirit's power was tied to the very first mirror that had ever reflected Adama's image, a mirror hidden deep in the heart of the cursed forest. To break the curse, Kelechi would have to find the mirror and shatter it. But the journey was perilous, for the forest was full of traps laid by the spirits to protect its power. Kelechi knew the risk, but his resolve was unwavering. Early the next morning, he set out for the forest, armed with a small knife, a lantern, and a heart full of determination. The villagers watched him go, their prayers following him as he disappeared into the dense trees. The forest was a labyrinth of twisted roots and gnarled branches that seemed to reach out like the hands of lost souls. The air was thick with the scent of earth and decay, and the only sounds were the rustling of leaves and the distant calls of unseen creatures. But Kelechi pressed on, guided by the faint glimmer of the lantern and the words of Nneka. Days passed, and Kelechi's resolve was tested by the spirit's tricks, illusions of dead ends, whispers that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, and the feeling of eyes watching his every move. But he stayed the course, knowing that Adama's freedom depended on him. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Kelechi stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood a towering tree, ancient and withered, with roots that seemed to claw at the earth. Hanging from one of its branches was an ornate mirror, its surface dull and cracked. Kelechi knew this was the source of the spirit's power. As he approached the mirror, the air around him grew heavy, and the ground trembled. The spirit appeared before him, a dark, shadowy figure with eyes like burning coals. "Turn back, mortal," it hissed. "This mirror is not yours to break." But Kelechi stood his ground. "I will break this mirror and free Adama," he declared, raising the knife. The spirit roared, summoning all its powers to stop him. The ground beneath Kelechi's feet cracked open, and dark tendrils of energy shot out, wrapping around him and pulling him towards the abyss. But with a final burst of strength, Kelechi swung the knife and shattered the mirror. The spirit let out a terrible scream as the mirror's shards scattered across the forest floor. The ground beneath Kelechi stopped shaking, and the dark tendrils vanished into the earth. The spirit, its power broken, dissolved into the wind, leaving behind only the silence of the forest. Kelechi, exhausted but victorious, returned to the village. When he reached Adama's salon, he found her standing outside, her eyes wide with disbelief. The moment the mirror shattered, she had felt the curse lift from her soul. With tears in her eyes, Adama ran to Kelechi and embraced him. "You have freed me," she whispered, her voice trembling with gratitude. For the first time in her life, Adama was free to live as she wished, to love, to laugh, to look at herself in a mirror and see not a cursed woman, but a beautiful, strong, and free woman. The villagers rejoiced at the news, and from that day on, Adama's salon became a place of celebration. Mirrors adorned the walls, reflecting the smiles of every woman who entered. And as for Kelechi, he and Adama grew close. Their bond forged in the fires of their shared struggle. The spirit was gone, the curse broken, but the story of Adama and Kelechi lived on in the village, a tale of courage, love, and the power of breaking free from the chains that bind us. And as they say in the village, when the winds whisper through the trees, it is the Spirit's voice, reminding all who listen that even the darkest curses can be broken by the light of a brave heart.
Jubal smiles, where stories take flight in fields of dreams from morning to night. Tales that teach and stories that play in the world of Jubal. Let your mind stray. Sailing through the epochs on ships made out of work,